I have learned that you are allowed to question certain things, that no, being a mom doesn't mean forgetting about yourself. And yes, you're still worthy as a mom. And yes, your dreams are valid. And yes, it's okay to be grateful for the blessing of motherhood, grateful for the blessing of parenting, and yet still want more than motherhood, and yet still not be fulfilled solely by being a mom. And that is absolutely okay. Hello guys, welcome to yet another episode of the Mom on Purpose with Busie Sholo podcast. I'm Busie Sholo and I'm your host. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much for the love, for listening to the podcast, for downloading, and for sharing it with those you love, because the charts are showing the results. You guys are absolutely amazing. A friend of mine sent me a screen recording of the Apple Podcast charts, and I was just like, oh, what is this? And it's like, no, go have a look. You're actually number 2 on the new shows under the kids and family category. And I went and I looked, and then I was number 2 for a while, and then I think after that, when I checked, I was number 1 on the new shows under that category. And I was just like, what? It means that you guys are doing the most. And in the same category, I also saw the one time just one episode was in the top 4, right below Focus on the Family. And at some point I was on the charts of that category, not just the new shows, but all the podcasts under the kids and family category. I was in the top 10, and I was just like, what? It's so amazing. I think it's been like that for over a week. So thank you so much for the love. You guys are incredible. I wouldn't be able to do that and make it there if it wasn't for you supporting my work. So I appreciate it so much. And I want to read one review that was left on Apple Podcast by Umama Womtu. She said that this podcast is like a tool, a must listen for moms and those supporting moms, which is actually absolutely amazing for me to hear, because I never thought of the podcast or my work being something that's going to be helpful for those who are supporting moms. In my head, I was just like, it's for moms. So I feel like every time I get feedback, it's eye-opening for me what my work is doing. Because I also remember someone who said that your podcast is like, it's helping me heal from so many things that happened in the beginning of my motherhood. And I never thought of my work as helping people to heal. So it's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. It's eye-opening, and I'm continuing to learn as well. Yeah. Okay. You can still continue to leave your reviews on Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify you can rate. I just found out last week that you can't leave a review on Spotify, but you can leave a rating. So yeah. Okay. Let's get started on this week's episode. It's episode 5, and it's more chilled. It's more for story time, actually. I speak a whole lot. Actually, it seems like I speak a whole lot about how I lost myself in motherhood, but I never ever sat down and told the entire story of what happened, when did it happen, and what are the events that led to that. And if maybe if there's something that I would have changed, what would I change, and what are the lessons? And I think that today is actually the day that I can tell that story. So I found out I was pregnant in 2014. It was May 2014. I remember it very well. I was doing my in-service training at a company in Cape Town because I was doing my diploma in biotechnology. So I missed my period, obviously, but I didn't want to rush and be like, conclude ukuthi it meant that I was really going to have a baby. So I told my husband, we were still dating at the time, I said, okay, no, I missed my period, but let's not panic. So I'm going to buy a pregnancy test the following day, and then we'll take it from there. And I did that, and it came back positive, and I was just like, okay, we're pregnant. And then I was just like, okay, let me go to the doctor to just confirm that it's not a false positive. And then I went, and again, the results came back positive. So yeah, and then from there, I think, yeah, I told obviously my husband and my family, and I also told them at work because we're working in the lab, and I just wanted to make sure that me and the baby were okay to just work with certain things, right? Yeah. So I was doing my in-service training, and I was able to finish it. I think it ended at the end of October, beginning of November. And then I think the time that I had to start making hard decisions now was when they offered me a position to say, okay, we enjoyed having you. Can we absorb you? We would like to absorb you, and you can become one of our employees the following year. And when I looked at the offer, it was actually good for a student. Someone who's just starting up in their career, but not someone who was engaged. And because I got engaged later in that year, oh my goodness, I feel like the story is going to be in bits and pieces. Maybe I might be going back and forth, but forgive me. So, and then who was going to have a family, become a mom. It wasn't making financial sense, because I did try and look at it and say, okay, let's say I give birth and I stay in Cape Town, and if I want my child to be with me, then I have to get a full-time helper and all of those things. It didn't make financial sense. And also, I also thought of, okay, let's say I take my daughter home to stay with my aunt, and then I stay in Cape Town, and then I visit. But they'll still need now the money to be able to take care of me this side, and also be able to send money home and still transport. And now I will no longer be living in Reyes. I was going to have to find a place of my own, and the cost of living is high, especially in Cape Town. So it didn't make financial sense. So I declined the offer. Literally, staying with my daughter and being with her in the same home was at the top of my list, because I stayed with my mom just a little bit. I think when I was in primary school, maybe even grade 1, if I'm not mistaken, but that young, then I moved and I stayed with my gran and my dad's family, right? So when I asked, I really did ask now that I'm old, as to why was that decision made like that. But it was just the long and short of it is that it was the best idea, the best choice, the best decision for me at the time, right? So I grew up every time just telling myself, when I have kids, I'm going to stay with them. When I have kids, I'm going to stay with them. Doesn't matter what happens. When I have kids, I am going to stay with my kids. I'm not going to separate with my kids. So that was at the top of my list with all my decisions that I was making. So I also got an offer, I remember, from one of my lecturers to ask me if I don't want to actually be work in the university, because I had graduated top of my class, and yeah, so that opportunity was available to me. But then again, the same thing, the offer just didn't make financial sense for all these things that I was going to now be responsible for just my life, right? The direction that my life was taking. So I went home, went back home to Durban, and then I stayed home. Obviously, at the time it was like November, because I was gonna give birth in February, so it feels like, whoo, I'm like maternity leave, so to speak. So yeah, I took the time and I rested. I enjoyed it. Had not having deadlines, not having just serious things to do, but just resting and preparing and nesting. Full blown nesting mode. So yeah, that time passed. And then I gave birth in February 2015. Yes. So after, I think, like, let's say a month later, I went down to Cape Town for my graduation. And then afterwards, and then I was just like, okay, and then what? it felt like now the reality started kicking in, that I don't have work to wake up to. People are, in the festive seasons, like everybody's at home and you guys are just there as a family. So I didn't feel like there was something missing because everyone was there. But then as soon as people went back to their lives, those who were visiting went back to their homes, and then people started going back to work and going back to school. The home started feeling empty, right? And I started now being the one's helping with the cleaning. People are gone. The responsibilities are mine. People are at work. If the house is dirty, I must clean. And postpartum, that can be really, really hard. So I did all of that, but I think the biggest frustration was that this is all that I'm doing. What else is there? Like, how did I go from a Busie who was ambitious, who wanted to pursue her dreams and her goals, who wanted to really study until she got her doctorate, to someone who now only thing I do is clean the house, cook, feed, sleep. Yeah, that kind of life. And not just to say that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just that that's all I was doing, and I had no plan for myself, right? And every time I'll take my phone, BBM days, you check, then friends are sending you things, and then you're seeing also updates about graduating with honors and, people making moves. Literally, my friends and I will actually speak about the things that we want to do. Sometimes it might not have been in depth, but we would mention that, okay, no, I want to study further. No, I want to do this and I want to do that. And to see Facebook posts about people doing the things that you guys spoke about, it broke me. It really broke me. It made me feel like I had failed. It made me feel like the time that I had spent in school and graduating at the top of my class was all for nothing, right? And you know how important perspective is, because I could have easily taken that as inspiration to say that, okay, if God can do it for them, surely He can do it for me. As inspiration to say, okay, Busie, yes, you've given birth. Yes, you had time to relax. But I think now it's time for you to start thinking what is next. But no, I became envious and jealous and couldn't believe that these people are moving ahead with their lives while my life felt like it was stagnant, right? I felt stuck. I felt lost. I felt like I said, like I wasted my education. So I was frustrated. That being in that position was frustrating. I think the negative thoughts spiraled, I'm telling you. Having thoughts of, like I said, wasted my education, and then feeling like maybe I'll never amount to anything. Maybe all I'll ever be is just a mom, and not that it was wrong, but I wanted more. Just that alone was not enough for me. It was not enough to fill the void. I wanted to do something fulfilling for me. In addition to being a mom, a part of me knew that I was called for more and created for more, but at the time, I don't know, I felt like I was clouded. I've mentioned before that where I grew up, it was a big thing for you to have graduated, number one, graduate at the top of your class, number two, number three, be pregnant, and still be loved and engaged. You are eventually going to get married, lobola is paid, all of that thing. Like, to have that kind of support, even from my own family as well. So it was quite challenging to speak about the things that I was unhappy about, because I had this fear of seeming like I was being ungrateful for the blessings that I did have, for the love and support that I did have. So I kept quiet in shame. I kept quiet because I didn't want to be judged. I felt like I was going to be judged had I said, I know, Guti, I have this and I have that, but I also want that. You see, and I've also learned in life, Uguti, you can be happy with specific areas of your life and still be unhappy with other areas of your life and want to improve them. And that is in no way a sign of being ungrateful. You just want to improve, which I feel like is a healthy thing to want, to desire the other areas of your life to also go well. Not just say because 1, 2, and 3 is going well, then it doesn't matter if 4, 5, and 6 is not going well. I don't believe in that. But at the time, That's my view of it. So I kept quiet. So time went by. I was feeling like that, feeling like a failure, feeling envious. I was just in this rut. And out of that, I remember I actually did start applying for jobs. I was just like, let me throw my CV out there. And I did apply for BTech as well. And I was called for interviews for both of those things because I had to pass interviews to be accepted to study the BTech and the interview for the job, which I got. I both got, right? So I went from being frustrated, being a stay-at-home mom, just envying my friends who were actually seeming like they're making it in life, and being like, feeling like I was being left behind. Before I actually go into the work and the school, what's actually so funny is that when I speak to my friends, they were actually, even though they were making moves career-wise, they were also yearning for the life that I had, right? Because now I was with a man that loved me, and I had this beautiful, healthy baby, supportive family. I planned my wedding. I got married. All of those things. And then they said when they looked from outside, it seemed like I had everything that they wanted, like a fairy tale, so to speak. But when I looked at their lives, I'm just like, these people are making big moves career-wise, and they've got their lives together. Can you see what comparison does? Even though we were not communicating about it at the time, but it did steal our joy because we kept on looking at each other's lives and not focusing and being grateful for what we already had, right? The one time Leanne Dlamini said that your ice cream can melt while you're busy counting sprinkles on somebody else's ice cream, which I feel like it was the case, rather. That was what was happening, because we're not focusing on the fact that I have ice cream, and we didn't even enjoy the ice cream, but we were busy counting the sprinkles while the ice cream that it was in our hands was melting. So, comparison, it still is a problem even now. It is a thief of joy. So it's always important to be grateful for what you have, even though you aspire for other things, to be grateful for what you already have. Okay, so like I said, now I did get the job, and I did get accepted to the BTech, to study the BTech. And then that December of 2015, then we decided, and it wasn't December, I think November, but towards the end of the year, we decided that, okay, you know what, we're also going to get married. At first, we wanted a date in January, but we were just like, maybe January is not a good month to get married. And then we were like, okay, what's the next one? We wanted the first week of Feb, but then the venue that we wanted was booked. And then the next available date was the following Saturday, which was the 13th. So we got married on the 13th of Feb. But yeah, before that, so here I am now, I'm planning a wedding. I was planning a wedding, about to get married, starting a new job in 2016, and also I was going to start a new semester in February 2016. So it went just from being quiet to just boom, busy. You have to plan, get things organized, do work, travel, all of those things, learn how to be away from home and everything. So yeah, it happened like that, and then I felt better, actually. Even though I don't really think I focused so much on it, but it felt good to actually be able to have a break by just leaving in the morning and going to work and then coming back. That fresh air and then change of environment was good for me. But I wouldn't say that I had found myself. Let me call it a distraction. It wasn't the job of my dreams, but I was happy to find something that would actually just change the routine for me and not just make me remain in the same old pattern that I was in for the whole year in 2015. So then January came, I worked until the month end, and then February came, took leave, wedding vibes, and then now I'm married, but my husband and I and our daughter, our daughter was with me, and we will travel now almost every weekend to to see my husband. He will come and pick us up and we'll go and visit, right? We did that up and down. There were a couple of times, I don't know for how long, let me just say a couple of times. And until one time we were visiting and my daughter was playing with my husband, but when a child is playing with a stranger, like that was what was happening. And I looked at them, I was just like, what is going on? Something clicked. And I remembered that over and above me not wanting to separate from my daughter, my other biggest dream was raising my kids with their dad. Excuse me. Raising my kids with their dad, because that's not what happened for me. I don't remember my mom and my dad ever parenting me together. I remember the time when we will be together, maybe we will be going out for something to eat or whatever. But other than that, it's just the dynamics of being at home and dad doing this and mom doing that. No, I never had that. So that was big on my list. So it clicked that, you know what, I actually said I wanted this, but now what's happening now is not aligning with that wish. So it stayed with me, and I spoke to my husband and I said, you know what, I don't like this because it's triggering for me, like reminding me of my childhood, and it feels like I'm recreating the wheel. And I didn't like how the fact that I wasn't raised by my mom and dad. I didn't like that we didn't have a home of our own. I didn't like that. But now here it is happening because your child is playing with you as if you're a stranger. And not even playing, when a child is like resisting kind of thing. So that really stayed with me until I was like, you know what? We looked at the finances, we looked at everything, the logistics. We spoke to our spiritual parents, but at the end of the day, I was just like, you know what? No, I'm going to resign, because I weighed everything. I was just like, I can always find another job, but I don't know if I stay here, if I will ever be able to recover the relationship between the two of you. You see, because my mother passed away when I was, I think, 25 or 24, gonna turn 25, I think somewhere there. But I was an adult, but I didn't have that close relationship with her, because I believe that in the crucial years, that's when I had gone and stayed with my dad's family. So that it cost us that. Yes, we were like mother and daughter, like civil, and we had a relationship, but it wasn't like a tight relationship, right? So I didn't want the same thing to happen, because I was gonna resent, I was gonna hate myself for it. So yeah, I made that decision. But what I didn't know then is that I could have actually said that, okay, I'm trying to say it how I'm thinking about it. I thought my thoughts were just one-sided, right? This thing was so big for me, and it was like trauma for me, that I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that I create a different future, a different life for my daughter, right? But I did not consider that creating a different life for my daughter did not have to mean sacrificing myself entirely. What I mean about entirely is, yes, it's a sacrifice to say that I am resigning because this is what I want, right? Not. She didn't ask for it. It's a sacrifice I was willing to make because that's a family structure that I wanted. I wanted a mom and a dad and a child under the same roof. That's the family structure that I wanted when I was growing up. But because it wasn't up to me, it was up to me now to be able to provide that family structure, right? So I decided that this is a sacrifice that's worth making to get what I want, right? What I want. But I did not now consider that, or rather, let me say I did not consider that I can make this sacrifice, but at the same time still think about, okay, so what does it mean for me and my dreams? I had forgotten about when I had stayed at home and felt frustrated and envied my friends and felt jealous and felt useless and felt like I was a failure. I had forgotten about that. How easily we forget. Goodness. Now I made that decision, and I was just like, I knew exactly that where we were moving, there was no job for me to do with my qualification. And I just said, no, we'll see. Let's just go. We'll see. My husband asked me so many times, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure we must do it? I was just like, yes, I am. I am sure. And then I resigned, and then we moved and all of that. And that is how I became a stay-at-home mom. You see, I'm reading a book called Radical Confidence. It's a November read for wisdom and wellness. Obviously, I'm not done with it, but anyway, I'm taking my time. But I read a section where Lisa was trying to decide if she wants kids or not. And then she made different scenarios, and it was so, so powerful. She made different scenarios, and she used the analogy of looking at these different scenarios as doors. And then she said, okay, scenario 1, I don't have kids. Scenario 2, I have kids and I'm a stay-at-home mom. Scenario 3, I have kids and I'm a working mom. And she broke down what each of those look like. What will make her happy and what will make her unhappy in each of these circumstances. And then at the end of the day, she made a choice that which one of these doors will she be able to live with for the rest of her life, right? But that's not how I looked at it, right? But it actually made me think that I should have looked at, okay, so door number 1 for me would have been I'm staying at my job and we're still under a long distance marriage. What are the pros? What are the cons of that? Pro, I would be still at work. I'll be still earning a salary which will help my family. But the con is that my child will still grow up and not know her dad very well and not have a close relationship with her father. And I'm also in a long distance marriage. Does it really work? Because when I go down, it was mostly about making sure that my husband's apartment was clean and his clothes are ready for the new week, and I'm going up to Spar to do groceries. It was never really about spending intimate time together, you see. So those were no-nos for me. And then that's all I looked at. That's all I used to make up my decision, right? But I think another door that I should have looked at was, okay, another door now is the fact that I am gonna move and resign from my job and be a stay-at-home mom. And what is that gonna look like for me? Because then I would have figured out that there's no time for Busie here. Where's your dreams and your goals, and how are you gonna cultivate those things even though there's no job? Is there any other skill, or can you go back to school? Because remember, I did say that I did want to further my studies. So can I do maybe honors part-time and all of that? No, I didn't think about that. And maybe door number 3 maybe would have been me considering to just maybe work even if I don't do exactly the work that I studied for, right? But again, I didn't think of those things, which I actually want to encourage you to actually look at all scenarios as a mom when you're trying to make a decision for your family, because that is how I left myself behind. I made an important decision for my family because I was going for the family structure that I wanted, and I kid you not, if I had to, I'll do it again and again and again and again, because every day I am living my dream of waking up in a home where myself and my husband and my daughter are under the same roof. So I would literally do that again. But what I'll do different this time, then I'll consider that, okay, what can I do in the meantime, given our circumstances, given this choice that I'm making, to ensure that I don't leave myself behind, to cultivate my dreams, to cultivate my goals. Just to use whatever situation that we have to maybe not say, let me not say use, maybe to study the circumstances and be like, okay, what can work here, right? Because that is how I lost myself. Because I came and I became a stay-at-home mom. Again, I was back to what was happening. Now being mom, being wife, laundry, ironing, cooking, groceries, that was my life. All my skills were in the kitchen. How do I pack things? So yeah, now I was back to where I was before, like I was when I was in my first year of motherhood, 2015. It was mid 2016, and I found myself exactly back where I was, and I didn't like it. I felt unfulfilled, and there was a void that was in me. But I think there was a conditioning as well in society that when you're a mom, you must forget about yourself and forget about your dreams. There were a lot of those said to me when I first became a mom, and I internalized them without really noticing. And I thought that being a good mother meant that I really had to forget about myself. But I think I want to encourage you, which now is a lesson that I learned the hard way, that you are allowed to question certain things. You're allowed to say, why am I not allowed to pursue my dreams and goals? What do you mean that when I become a mom, I have to forget about myself? What is that? And because I've always wanted to be a good example of a mother to my kids, I always wanted her, my kids, my daughter, to actually see that things can be done, to be a role model for her, and for her to see it from me. I don't want to be a hypocritical parent who's going to say to my child, study, make sure you do well at school, pursue your dreams, it's doable, and then yet I fold my arms and I sit back and I don't pursue my own dreams. You see, I want her to see it from me. She will see it from me. And yeah, I think that I've learned that the hard way over a period of being a stay-at-home mom for 2 years, and forgetting about myself, and until I went to a point where I was just like, this is really a thing, and it can get really bad because you end up resenting your partner. And sometimes you find that there are parents who are even going to say to their kids, I sacrificed my entire life and my career and my dreams for you. So end up maybe wanting the child to leave their dreams or leave their own dreams through their kids. And I don't want to be that parent. And I'm so grateful that I actually learned how to make informed decisions and learned to actually really question what does motherhood mean to me, which is why I actually always say it's important for you to redefine motherhood for yourself, and to never leave yourself behind, because God doesn't strip purpose from you. When you become a mom, God doesn't take away your dreams. He doesn't take away the mandate that he had. You know, there's a reason why we were all created. I believe that so much. He doesn't take that reason away once you become a mother. So why do we behave like he does? You are still important. Your dreams still matter. You are still born for a purpose. You're still alive for a purpose. So just because you're a mom, it doesn't mean that it's over and it's done. But sometimes we are made to believe that. And that's why most of the moms put their dreams on the back burner and just forget about things, you see. So yeah, certain things are seasonal, but don't forget yourself in the midst of everything. You might have to put specific things and dreams just on hold for a season, but it's only supposed to be for a season, a short season, might I add. So yeah, I have learned that you are allowed to question certain things, that no, being a mom doesn't mean forgetting about yourself. And yes, you're still worthy as a mom. And yes, your dreams are valid. And yes, it's okay to be grateful for the blessing of motherhood, grateful for the blessing of parenting, and yet still want more than motherhood, and yet still not be fulfilled solely by being a mom. And that is absolutely okay. So thank you so much for listening, for watching. Let me know what your journey has been in motherhood, especially if you have lost yourself, and what has brought you to that, and just what you relate to in terms of today's story time type of episode. Thank you so much. My name is Busie Sholo, and I'll see you guys next time.